Having 24 days till the election, Donald Trump has basically led all 7 battleground states. He was behind in almost every single one of them just a month ago. But now, at the ideal moment, the former president is rocketing to fresh heights. Based on Polymarket's election projection, Trump stands at a 55% chance to prevail, the greatest odds since early August. And so, in this video, we will examine all the fresh polling data that has put Trump squarely ahead and explore what this actually will imply for the election early next month. And so, on the map, I have filled in all of the solid states, but we will also be excluding some extra states from consideration. These states will be more competitive, but they just won't change the outcome of the election one way or another. In the end, it will turn out to be a matter of 7 states that will really choose the next president. Thus, even with 50 states, only 7 truly have actual power. Furthermore, among those 7 states are Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. And currently, Trump leads in practically every single one of them. We will now start down in the Sun Belt and then advance our way up to the Midwest, delving more into each of these unique races. Beginning in Nevada, Donald Trump has been leading with 0.2%, following the most recent Wall Street Journal survey. Furthermore, looking at the graph, Kamala Harris had been ahead in Nevada since the end of August, but Trump formally reverted to lead just yesterday. His lead fairly reflects the likely events in Nevada next month, though I personally have Trump winning the state by roughly 1 to 2 points. There's little doubt the state will be close. Trump is on course for a narrow victory. Simply look at the 2020 poll data. Leading by 5.3% was Joe Biden. He was expected to win almost certainly by margin. At last, he was unable of doing that. He only prevailed in Nevada by 2.4%. Nowadays, the surveys most certainly understate support for the former president once more. Based on the betting markets, Nevada has been rather competitive, with Trump and Harris neck and neck throughout the past 2 months. With a 51% possibility of winning instead of Trump's 49%, the vice president today has a somewhat limited edge, but since a 51% and a 49% likelihood differ little statistically, this is essentially a draw. I do have Trump as the minor favorite, even though I agree Nevada will be tight. Here I agree with the poll average. Trump might prevail anywhere up to 2 percentage points. The Silver State will thus be tilted crimson on our map as well. Now, given the GOP has never won Nevada, this would be a major triumph for them. Nevada had not voted red since 2004 until now. Of course, it also suited George W. Bush. Nevada is most likely not going to decide this election, though. It gets just 6 electoral votes. Therefore, there is no reasonable situation whereby either Harris or Trump might genuinely need to win Nevada to get 270. Neighboring Arizona, though, will be quite consequential. Donald Trump has to win this state if he is to stand a chance to land the presidency. Sadly for him now, this was exactly the situation Biden found himself in during the last election. He got 0.31%. The good news for Trump, though, is that his polling average leads right now, with most recent polls demonstrating he is en route to win. He is ahead by 1%. Arizona hardly ever approved of Harris. She led in the polling average for a really brief amount of time. This occurred during the Democratic convention. Still, Trump has led steadily ever since. He has been leading regularly by about 1 to 2%. Naturally, that's more than enough for him to win the state. Just consider the 2020 poll. Joe Biden was headed for a 2.6-point victory, another instance of polls consistently exaggerating Democratic support, when, in the end, Joe Biden took Arizona by less than 1/3 of 1%. Trump is also in really strong shape in the betting markets. From now Harris to versus Joe Biden, Trump has been ahead all through the election cycle. During the Democratic conference, hence Trump's lead has only been widening. Trump is actually performing exactly as he did prior to Joe Biden dropping out. Democrats, thus, went through all the effort of substituting the top of their ticket nominee. Of course, Kamala Harris, the fresh contender, isn't even doing any better than Joe Biden before he dropped out of the running. And therefore, if Kamala Harris loses, Democrats will most likely view replacing Biden as a major error despite his flaws as a candidate, mostly due to his age. Arizona will thus show on our map as lean red. Trump seems to be winning it by a slightly more than 2% edge, currently in favor of the former president. This will be the second flip on the map. Proceeding now across the nation, we arrive in Georgia, where Donald Trump leads by 0.5% in the poll average. Actually, Harris leads in just 2 of the 9 most recent Peach State surveys out there, and Trump has been ahead in Georgia for some time now, with his lead usually widening. Early September, Kamala Harris led, but naturally, that is no longer the case. Trump is sure going to win Georgia. The state is still fundamentally more Republican than it is Democratic. Brian Kemp thus obtained a likely margin back off in 2022 for his re-election as governor. Clearly, the presidential contest will be closer now, but given Trump won the state by 5 points just 8 years ago, he can surely pull off a 2-point triumph. By 2020, the polls in Georgia were rather accurate now. Here, among all the swing states, the polls were the best on Election Day. Joe Biden led 1.2%. Eventually, he prevailed in the state by 0.24%. It was the closest state in the whole contest, and should polls turn out accurate once more, Trump will be en route to win it this time around. Based on the betting markets, Trump's lead has also been widening following the Democratic convention. He currently has a 64% likelihood of winning, almost a 2 in 3 chance, and he is essentially performing as if he had been right before the first Biden-Trump debate, thus rendering Biden off the ballot. As a result, Georgia will also be a lean state, where Trump is likely to make a third flip. Though Trump does win North Carolina, this is the only swing state that voted for the former president in both 2016 and 2020. North Carolina is not going to be a flip. According to the polling average, Trump is en route to win by 0.5% today. Out of all 8 of the most recent surveys, Trump leads 7 of them. The other one is a tie, and looking at the graph, Trump has been ahead all through the year. Harris and Trump split just 0.1% once, but Trump's margin has expanded since then. Therefore, the former president is definitely the most preferred choice in the Tar Heel state. Just look at polling from 2020. Joe Biden led all through the election cycle. On Election Day, he led by 1.8%, but finally lost the state by a 1.3% margin. Hence, the survey here understated Trump by 3%, and that is the reason Trump is the definite favorite in the betting markets. He stands 63% likely to win, than Harris's 38%. And if it weren't for Mark Robinson, the Republican gubernatorial candidate, Trump would really be in a far better position. His governor's race has thus been a total fiasco, after controversy after scandal. He will damage Republicans in the state, but most likely not enough to force Trump to lose the state at the top of the ticket. As North Carolina is expected to remain red, I have him winning the state by a little over 2%, enhancing off of his 2020 margin. North Carolina will likewise show on our map as lean red, and now, with just 3 states left, Trump is at 268 electoral votes, just 2 away from the presidency. So, we have 3 more competitive states left, and any one of them Trump can grab to cross the finish line. Actually, he would lose Nevada and then win any of these states and still be able to move above 270. Basically, Trump is on track to sweep in the Sun Belt and the Midwest based on the polling right now, as well as my own forecasts. We will most likely see something like this. We'll start in Pennsylvania, perhaps the state that gets either candidate over 270 electoral votes. Donald Trump's lead today is 0.1%. Most recent polls show him leading, and looking at the graph, the Keystone State has always been competitive. Things are still highly competitive even now with Harris in between Biden and Trump. But given just less than a month to go, Trump has seized the initiative in a quite ideal moment. Examining 2020 poll results, Joe Biden led by over 5 points. Furthermore, as of course, Joe Biden only carried Pennsylvania in the end by 1.2%. Therefore, a 0.1% edge for Trump is quite welcome news for the former president. Trump is also preferred in the betting markets. Right now, he has a 54% chance of winning as compared to Harris's 47%. From the end of July, Trump's margin has essentially been the biggest it has been. Going back, should Trump prevail in Pennsylvania, the race essentially ends. He will lock Kamala Harris out, and so right now, Pennsylvania is the last lean state shown on the map. Furthermore, the reason Pennsylvania is so important is because even if Trump loses Nevada, which is not the most improbable event in the world, Should he also lose Arizona, which is most certainly less likely, let's just say hypothetically the polls completely miss here, Trump will still be able to obtain 270 electoral votes if Arizona swings blue with just Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. 3 states which I now have the previous president winning by at least 2 points. Turning now to Michigan, which has very likely surprised me, as in 2020, this state was the most liberal swing state acquired into one of my 2.8. Not one of the other swing states was won by him by more margin, and thus Michigan has been the most liberal for really some time now. Actually, Trump leads by 0.9% today, though that's almost a 1-point lead. Furthermore, considering the polling average, Harris led fairly fast in Michigan shortly after she registered for the campaign. As Michigan often leans left, she now lags even in the Wolverine condition, though, and this essentially ensures a terrible vice presidential finish. Looking at polling from 2020, Joe Biden was expected to win Michigan by 7.9%. He won it finally with 2.8%. That is a rather large miscalculation indeed, and today Trump is in a very strong position to turn Michigan and win it a second time after he carried it by only 0.2 back in 2016. He's actually leading, with the polls here always underestimating him. Kamala Harris's odds have practically dropped off a cliff, so the betting markets also exhibit a notable change. Her odds of winning were 67% 2 weeks ago. That was a 2 in 3 chance, but her campaign has collapsed utterly since then. She is not even the preferred candidate nowadays, with a 51% chance of winning. Donald Trump is on target to capture Michigan. Michigan's going to be tight without question. It does have a lengthy Democratic voting history, and so on the map, I do have it underlined to Trump, but only by a slight margin. Should Kamala Harris fail in Michigan, her chances of losing every other swing state are rather high. Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, all these states are going to be lean red without doubt. Nevada is most likely going to turn around too. Thus, Kamala Harris will find great devastation from a loss in Michigan. However, right now, it is what we are expected to observe as Trump's stance in the choice keeps improving and better. Finally, the polling average in Wisconsin needs some catching up. Although Kamala Harris currently has a limited 0.3% lead, she will shortly lose that position, and just consider it. Trump will most definitely grab Wisconsin if he can win Michigan and Pennsylvania. Harris is only performing somewhat better here because she selected Tim Walz as her running partner, the governor of Minnesota. Wisconsin naturally does also border Minnesota. Still, it seems doubtful that Wisconsin will vote differently than its 2 upper Midwestern counterparts. Back in 1988 was the last occasion Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin did not all vote for the same candidate. Moreover, no state has seen polling exaggerating Democrats more than in Wisconsin. Joe Biden was expected to win the state by 8.4%. At last, he prevailed with 0.63%, though finally he wins it by a lesser percentage than Trump won Wisconsin by in 2016 when he became the first Republican to win it in almost 30 years. It really is difficult to believe that the analytics had Biden winning this by a probable margin nearly in double digits. Wisconsin will thus most certainly be tilt red on the map. The betting market suggests that we once more basically have a statistical tie. 2 weeks ago, Harris was at a 60% chance. She collapsed exactly as she did in Michigan. Wisconsin, the last state on the map, will thus go to Trump by a meager margin. Trump is thus on target to win 6 of 7 swing states based just on the polling data. However, if you consider past polling mistakes, he will readily win all 7. Regarding the battlefields, Trump is likely to sweep over the board. He has a minimum 3 on 12 electoral vote count online as he keeps ascending the polls. He could even make it with Minnesota and Virginia competitive as this month unfolds.